I think we're rocking and rolling. Hi, this is very out of my comfort zone. I very rarely do videos like this. In fact, this might be my first one, properly. I'm a very casual reader. I work a 9 to 5. I try to read where possible, but I'm also addicted to my phone and scrolling, so I don't always find the time, and that is something that I want to improve this year. But saying that, in 2024, I managed to read 30 books, which is not a huge amount by a lot of book talk creators' standards, but for me, that was a lot, and I was proud of myself. Should we go over what I read? My hair is doing quite the flick today. Look at that. Book 1 of 2024 was The Odyssey. What a way to start. This is actually the Emily Wilson translation, which I looked it up and apparently it's the first English translation by a woman, which is pretty cool. And I also heard that it is the most accurate translation of The Odyssey. So I was very keen to pick this up. And also, if you know me, you know how much I love a floppy book, and my god is this floppy. Chef's kiss. Saying that, I don't love poetry. I didn't quite comprehend that this was poetry when I first picked it up, or put it on my reading list, whatever. But do you know what? I actually really enjoyed it. Really liked the story. I love Greek mythology, and getting to delve more into those stories is really fun. There is a theme throughout a lot of the books that I've noticed that I read this year, and that is they are either TV shows already, films already, or are about to be adapted into TV or film. Not my intention, but it is a happy accident, and this one is actually, it's just been announced, or like recently announced, that Christopher Nolan is adapting this. So that'll be really exciting to read, but I gave this one 4 stars. I really liked it. Number 2, Queen's Gambit. I said there was a theme. The theme here is I watched the TV show first. I wanted to read the book. I'm glad I watched the TV show first because I don't understand chess. There's a lot of chess in this book. The main character storyline is very interesting. I thoroughly enjoyed that. The chess bits, not so much, I'm not gonna lie. It's like when you read a fantasy novel and you just kind of skim over the character names and the places because you don't know how to pronounce them. Same thing with this. If you don't quite understand the chess bits, maybe watch the series and then you will. But this one, I gave this one 4 stars. Books 3 and 4. I don't know what took me so long to read The Handmaid's Tale. I got gifted this book, I think by my sister, a little while ago, and I just never read it. But last year I had the overwhelming urge to watch the TV show, but I didn't want to watch the TV show until I'd read the book. So I read the book. I read the story of Offred, who is a woman working for a family, a husband and wife, and her main job is to have a baby. It's a dystopian novel. If you have never heard the premise or you've never watched the TV show, it's a really fascinating read, and Margaret Atwood actually wrote this in the 80s, I think. 2 seconds for a fact check. 1985 she wrote this, and she has very publicly said that this is not a complete work of fiction. There are newspaper clippings that she has that are, inspired the story. So incredible, even if you just read it for the fact that it was so, in some ways, ahead of its time, some ways exactly at the right time. But it's a great story, initially written as a standalone, and it does just a little bit of a wrap up at the end. So you could read it alone, but if you're like me and you become addicted, you can then pick up the second book, The Testaments. I feel so sorry for people that read The Handmaid's Tale in 1985 and had to wait until 2019 for this to come out. I straight away went and bought this after I finished The Handmaid's Tale because I wasn't done with the story. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know how we got to where we were, what happens after this, the events of the book. does it wrap up? And so straight away I went and grabbed this, and do you know what? I'm really glad I did. This follows 3 characters. I'm not going to give away with who the characters are and if you've met them before, but 3 characters, different perspectives on Gilead, which is the world this is set in. Oh, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to the TV show and seeing how they wrap that up and if it follows the book, because I think Margaret's done a really good job here. Both of these I rated 4 stars. Book 5. I wasn't smart enough for this book. A woman, a new mother, loses her identity in motherhood and starts to believe that she is a dog. I don't know whether she actually... Well, I don't know whether the events of this story are real, whether they actually happen to the character, or whether they're just all in her mind and is a commentary on the loss of identity in motherhood. I didn't really understand it, and luckily for me it's been made into a TV series, so maybe I'll understand. And actually Amy Adams is going to be playing the main character, and I loved Amy Adams in Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, so maybe I'll understand it. But this one got a 3 stars. Book number 6. Confession, I watched the film with Anne Hathaway first because that was the only adaptation of this medium at the time. I then watched the TV series with my sister. Loved it. She bought me this so I could read it. Loved it. The story follows Emma and Dexter, who met at university, and the story goes through their lives over 2 decades, all on the same day each year, and basically just like follows their friendship and how that grows, how their relationship grows, how they grow as people. And it's devastating. If you know, you know, it's devastating. But I really, really enjoyed this, and I gave this one 5 stars. Book number 7, Cherry. Did I have every intention of reading this first and then watching the film? Yes, I did. Did I get around to reading it before I watched the film? No, I didn't. So I watched the film. I then read the book. I prefer the film. The writing style of this is very brash. I didn't like it. The main character is unlikable, and it's a bit chaotic, but the story is a young man who is or was an army medic in Iraq, returns home with PTSD, and turns to bank robbery and drugs to deal with that. So, kind of interesting. The film was definitely more dramatic, which made it more interesting. Not really a lot to say on this one. It was fine. It was just fine. And books I find just fine get 3 stars. Book number 8 was Magpie. Psychological thriller, apparently. There was definitely a twist. It could have been better. It could have been more exciting. A couple rent out a room in their house, flat, property to a lodger, and their lodger turns out to not all be what seems. They start to act a bit funny towards the partner, and the main character starts to have a bit of a question mark over who is this lodger and what are they doing. The twist, like I said, could have been better. The reason for the twist I didn't like, to be honest. It felt a bit, is contrived the word? I don't know. If you read it, or if you've read it, you'll understand. It feels like the justification for the twist was a bit of a leap on mental health. Does that give it away? I don't know. Anyway, it was fine. 3 stars. Book number 9. Didn't like it. I was expecting a end of the world, like, dystopian novel, I think, and I didn't get that. This actually follows more of like a family dynamic and a couple dynamic. The husband is a doomsday prepper, and he's so prepared for the end of the world, and the wife is very eco-conscious and I don't know, maybe it's my fault for misinterpreting the blurb, but because I was expecting an end of the world book and I didn't get that, I got an attempt at exploring family relationships. I didn't enjoy it at all. I think the characters could have been better written, the relationships could have been a bit deeper. I gave this one 2 stars. Sorry, Carys. Book number 10. I think I mentioned at the beginning, but I love Greek myths. Yeah, I think I did. Greek mythology, love it. Love modern retellings, especially by women. I read Song of Achilles, incredible, one of my favourite books. Circe, also amazing. What else did I read? Ariadne, great, really enjoyed it. This, did not enjoy. It says it's Medusa's story, it's not. It flits between lots of different characters, lots of different perspectives, and you know, it's meant to be a retelling of Medusa's story and trying to get you to empathise with her character and what led her to the story we all know. I don't think it did it very successfully. Like I said, it just wasn't from Medusa's point of view. It would have been much better if it was just from her point of view. There's another book I think that is meant to be that. I can't remember what it's called, but I'm definitely going to pick that one up to try. Bit disappointed in our wonderful Margaret Atwood for giving this book a review of witty, gripping, ruthless. I expected better from you, Margaret. 2 stars. The 11th book of the year. Very short, which is great. I love to mix it up with a short book to feel like I'm getting back on track. It's Dead Girls. So this one's set in Argentina and it follows different stories of women that have been murdered or have died, and it comments a lot about, what do you call it? So it uses the term femicide in here. Centres around a lot of like, why is it women that are being targeted, and are they being targeted because men can't control their rage? What is it about women and why they're getting murdered? It was interesting. I did enjoy it, and it was just fine. And it's 3 stars. Book number 12. I'll always pick up books from this series as soon as they're published in paperback because I hate hardback books. This is the 4th installment, I think, of this series, and again, another like short read. And I love these ones for just something like, you know, it gives you a bit of philosophical points on life and to enjoy the moment and not have any regrets and that kind of thing, in lots of different like short stories within like one overarching plotline. But it's not too heavy on that. They're still really enjoyable. They can get you out of a reading rut, I think. I always pick these up to get me out of a reading rut when I need a little boost for the year. And what did I rate this one? Before your memory fades. 4 stars. I think all of these have 4 stars. Just very enjoyable. Thank you. Book number 13 of the year. So I moved to London in January 2024. I had a rough start to the year, to put it lightly. Because of that, the rest of the beginning of the year was a bit slow, just trying to settle into a new city, settle into a new place. By the summer, I wanted to branch out a bit, try and find some people in the city, and I went to a book club meeting, and this was the book of the book club, The Bandit Queens. I don't think I would have picked this up if it wasn't for the book club, and you can see I attempted to do some annotations because I was taking this book club seriously. I made some notes. Can you see that? You can't really see that. Very minimal notes because I have tried to get into annotating, but I'm not quite there yet. But the main thing I found was just adding in like my reflections at the end of the chapter. This woman gets falsely accused of murdering her husband, which makes her a bit of a famous character in her village in, where is it? Yeah, rural, why is that word so hard to say? Rural India. And she becomes a bit of a legend, and other women start coming to her for advice and support. Yeah, do you know what? It was quite a funny read. It kept me questioning, like, did she do it? Did she not do it? It led into some revelations that I think were maybe quite obvious, but all in all, like, I did enjoy this read. And I rated this one got a 4 stars from me. I just realised there is a book number 14 here. I don't have a copy of it. I don't know where my copy has gone, honestly. I've searched. I have a bookshelf here. I have books over here. I have a main bookshelf in the living room. I don't know where the hell this book is, so I cannot hold it up. I'll put a screenshot here. It was called This Too Shall Pass. It's about a woman who is middle-aged. Her mum dies, and she's trying to get to grips with what that means for her and her like relationships. It's a short read and a great one to get out of a reading slump, or if you are like me and panic in the middle of the year and suddenly need to read loads of books to meet your goal. It was just fine. And what did just fine books get? 3 stars. Book number 15. And can you believe that I've gotten to the ripe old age of 30, have only just read The Hobbit? This is a children's book, I know. I did try to read this when I was maybe 10, and then when I was 18, and I never got past the first couple of pages because I don't know why. I just didn't like it. But this time it's stuck, and I really enjoyed it. So I read this, really enjoyed it. It's so fast paced. Every step that Bilbo Baggins takes, there is something going on. There is a journey. There is action. There is loss. There is another predicament around the corner. You know what? I have seen the films. They made 3 films out of this. And I think I enjoyed them because I only saw them when they came out in the cinema, but I wonder what my opinion would be of them after reading this. What did I give this? I gave this 4 stars. Because why? How can you not? Okay, this is another book that I tried to read years ago and couldn't get into it. Picked up again last year, ate my way through it, loved it. The reason I did not get into this a few years ago was it was when I just picked reading back up. This was about 2019, 2020. The only books I was like really into that could keep me hooked were like mysteries and thrillers. So this one that is just a commentary on or a story around people, I didn't like. I don't know, I think I just found the prose like quite confusing and not what I was used to. So for Londoners that have grown up, they've left their council estate, and what do their lives look like? If you find this one difficult to read, either try and stick with it, or what I found was reading Sally Rooney, getting used to like the way that she writes, then helped me get into this one. But I really enjoyed this. I gave this one 4 stars. I read this book in a day. I was on holiday, to be fair, and I was on the beach. This is a story about race, basically. 2 characters, middle-aged white woman and a young black man, get into a relationship, and it kind of follows how that relationship works with them having such different backgrounds, different stances on the world currently, both because of their race and because of their age. There's a lot of mention of Brexit in this. It feels very dated, but obviously it was very relevant for the time of this story, and I think helps some of the narrative. And you know what, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy the book. I'm just not sure how I felt about like the way that he wrote some of the characters. I feel like some of the supporting characters in the story were a bit one-dimensional and a bit stereotypical. What do we give Just Fine books? 3 stars. We're over halfway. We're on book 18 of 2024. I didn't realise, but this is loads of short stories. That really, again, helps when you're in a reading rut. One of them is a 13-year-old girl watches her best friend totter along the edge of a building roof. A woman who lost a child in its first trimester finds empathy and horror in the waters of a city aquarium. Lots of different themes here. It's just another collection of like human stories, and I really enjoyed it. So this one got 4 stars. Book 19. The premise of it is interesting. Set in World War II, a curator from a museum is sent to protect the animal collection that has been shipped off to a manor house in the countryside to protect it from the bombings in London. There is a mystery, obviously. Some of the animals start going missing. Life that she is now living in the countryside of England versus London is confusing to her. The house that she's in has its own mystery, which might be related to why the animals are going missing. The twist was obvious. Characters you had question marks over, you had every right to have question marks over. It could have been better. I think this is a debut, so I am sorry, Jane, but do better. 3 stars. Book 20. 2 sets of sisters, told from like their perspectives. Trigger warning for this one. There is some mention of sexual assault. One of each set of sisters has to inevitably start looking after their other sister more. Their stories kind of intertwine a little bit with each other. In the blurb, you know, it says that they become connected through one man. I think I kind of forgot about that when I was reading it, which, yeah, made it interesting because I wasn't expecting there to be a twist. I just thought it was a lovely human story about 2 sets of sisters. But this was very enjoyable, and I will give it 4 stars. Or I gave it 4 stars. And here is where the books start to go downhill for 2024. The Guernsey, let's try and do this off the top of my head. Come on, let's do this from memory. The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. Got it. I did not like this. I did not realise it was going to be written as letters the entire way through. I thought the characters were boring. I thought they were very shallow. They were very like caricatures of stereotypes of those types of characters. There is an author. She starts writing letters to the people in Guernsey post World War II, and the people in Guernsey are still living with the repercussions of the war, which entices our main character to go over to Guernsey and meet these people and learn their stories. And it's 2 stars from me. After that book, I really wanted something different. I wanted something better, and I wanted something I would enjoy. I didn't get it. Another book written in the form of letters. At least it wasn't set in World War II this time. Set in the 70s. Oh my god, it was set in Cornwall. I did not realise that. 3 men are lighthouse keepers on a remote island, and they go missing, and no one has any clue what happens to them. As soon as you start reading, it's obvious what happens to them, and you could probably put it down after the first couple of chapters and you wouldn't have missed anything in your life. I was just very disappointed, and I was done at this point, and I gave it 2 stars. It feels a bit harsh because people do spend time and effort and hard work into writing these books, and then I'm just sat here. What qualifications do I have? I don't. I have some qualifications, just not in books and fiction and no literary qualifications, but here I am telling you that your book was boring and has 2 stars. So I do apologise, no offence, just wasn't for me, I guess. We have a slight improvement on book number 23 of the year. 3 siblings in South Africa gather together for their mother's funeral. Their mother promised their lifetime employee, who is a black woman, that she would be given the home and the land that she lives on. The book, throughout time, it covers a few years, battles with this promise and how that affects the members of the family and where their morals lie. There was a couple of like shocking bits in this book that I was not expecting. It was an improvement on the previous 2 that I'd read, and I gave this one 3 stars. Book number 24, In Every Mirror She Is Black. This follows 3 women, Bray women. They are connected in some way. The connections are a bit tenuous at times, and individually their stories are quite interesting, but together, it's set in Stockholm, set in Sweden. It's individually their stories are quite interesting on how being a woman of colour in a mostly white country affects them as people. The link to each other, like I said, was very tenuous and could have been better. I enjoyed the book nonetheless. I gave this one 3 stars. And we're back to books that I wish I didn't read. This is set in World War II, which I have been known to like, but I didn't like this one. This woman has to leave her home. She joins the, what are they called? The tree corps? The lumber mill corps? The women's timber corps. She's set up as this tenacious woman who doesn't want people to have any preconceived notions of her. We have another character who is an Italian prisoner of war, set up to be this very soft man who only joined the Italian army because of familial pressures and pressures of his country. The 2 characters kind of meet and their relationship develops and grows. Again, I just think the characters are very shallow. There was no depth to them. They were, again, just like caricatures of the characters, or the types of characters that were being portrayed. Everything that happened in the book I kind of expected to happen. I just don't think I'm the right audience for this, to be honest. It was boring, and it was 2 stars. Book 26 of the year is Grown Ups by Marianne Keyes. I know she has like quite a cult following. People really love her books. Following the family, there are 3 brothers who each have their own like families. They have their differences, their partners, their children, families. They have a family, and families are complicated. There's lots of secrets in this. They're all grown-ups, but they're not acting like grown-ups. It was entertaining, and it was fine, and it was 3 stars. So I thought I'd bite the bullet and go immediately into the second of the Marianne Keyes books that I have, The Brightest Star in the Sky. I find that when I'm reading, especially like a longer book of an author, I get into their tone of writing and I like to stick with it if I have another one, just because I'm in that like headspace. So this is, again, lots of different characters in this book, but they're all joined by this one house on a street, and it's just following the different lives of different people and their troubles and their relationships and how they all are intertwined with each other. Secrets, twists, life lessons. Just fine, Marianne, just fine. You get 3 stars. Book 28, The Deloriad. So, did I pick this up because I liked the cover? Yes, I did. Did I purchase this book because I liked the blurb? Yes, I did. I was expecting a dystopian female-led novel. It is that. It's just not quite what I expected. A family that were based in a European country, apologies, I think it's Eastern European country, but I can't remember. They live on the edge of like a deserted city, and the matriarch is desperate to repopulate the world and the city after this disaster. Unfortunately, she's chosen to do it with just her own children, as they are the only ones that have survived. So there are lots of children, lots of genetic deformities because of the sibling love that is happening. To be honest, there were points in this book that actually made me feel sick. It was enjoyable nonetheless. I think I was just like, I was wanting more. The plotline doesn't really progress. I would have liked it if the plotline progressed and we got a bit more world building, maybe like how we got to the point, but we didn't really get that. So I gave this one 3 stars. Book 29 is Fault Lines. This is set in Japan, and this Japanese housewife has gone along the route that is expected of her, of marrying someone and having children and being a good housewife, but she doesn't have a relationship with her husband really. He works all the time and she's lost a bit of herself until she meets a restaurateur who reminds her that life can be exciting, and she gets swept up in that new life and that new identity for herself. And this is quite a short read, but I really liked it. I knew this was a bit more of a lightweight one. There was no massive life lessons to be learned, quite whimsical, and I really enjoyed this one, so I gave this one 4 stars. And then we're on to the last book of the year. I distinctly remember picking this up in 2019, sat at my desk in the office that I worked in pre-COVID, when we had offices, and started to read it on my lunch break, and I don't know why, I just never got past the first chapter even of this one, but I was determined to read it. And I think maybe part of it was because so this is set in Singapore, and it's about a group of women who are looking for their, I can't remember the words they use for it, basically like rich Western men to have babies with. They want their Chanel babies. It's about her and her friends are party girls. They are going out, they are trying to find these Western men to have these desirable babies with and to be set up for life and not follow the paths that like their parents have and what society previously expected of them. So it's told in Singlish, which colourful Singaporean English, with its distinctive cadence and slang. So that could be quite hard to read sometimes, trying to understand that. The story itself was like quite enjoyable. I'm just glad I managed to finish reading this one after it's been on my shelf for so long. I can't remember what I gave this one. I gave this one 4 stars. Thank you for watching. If you've stuck all the way through this one, then you're a trooper, and put a comment in the comments saying just fine, 3 stars, because that'll be funny. That'll be our little joke. I will be making some more book videos. I'm on TikTok as well for like some quicker short form content. Stay tuned, I guess. Subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.